Good morning from beautiful and sunny Edinburgh. But I should say, really, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you are in the world. This is the final show. Oh my goodness, I'm going to tear up, really. This is the final show of the IATEFL Conference. Of course, not of the IATEFL live shows, because you know that on the 22nd of April, we are coming back. But for now, the only thing I can tell you is that we are live from the conference. I must say that the energy is still on even after 5 days of a conference. We've been talking to different people and we've been asking ourselves, how is this possible? How are we still energetic? How we still have energy? And you know what? The answer is very, very simple. It's the love, it's the connection, it's all of the energy that we're getting from each other. And from all of this inspiration, we're getting not only from the speakers, but also from the exhibitors, from anyone working here, and of course from you, because your comments from the live shows have been absolutely wonderful. I would really like to thank everyone watching us from many different countries, and we've had so many wonderful countries joining us. So we've had audience from Germany, Italy, Peru, Costa Rica, Cuba, where else? I forgot, girls. I keep forgetting so many countries. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for joining us here at the IATEFL Conference in Edinburgh. So what have we got for you today? Now, of course, we have got a fantastic lineup of speakers who are here to inspire you. So join us today. Please remember that you can watch these live shows later because the live shows stay on our social media, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So you can rewatch or watch them later as well. So we have got a lot of things going on for you. We have got Anka here and Nikki here and two of our next guests here. So I want you to stay tuned, get some nice coffee. Let's get ready. So Edinburgh, let's get ready for the final show.
Ready to revolutionize your ELT courses? Introducing ITN Education's captivating videos, the key to transforming English language learning. With our expertly crafted content, we'll accelerate language acquisition like never before. Whether in class or online, our custom-built videos support your learning objectives. Discover ITN Education at IATEFL and elevate your ELT courses today. ITN Education, where learning comes to life.
Hello, everybody. So we begin the final show, and I'm here with Edwina Morehouse. Hello.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Still got lots of energy, even though it's Friday.
So it was really sweet. Edwina just turned up to our studio full of energy and said that, yeah, I can't believe it's the last day and I'm so lively.
I know. And it's not even the coffee, I don't think. I think I'm just
you look
still going.
Very fresh.
Thank you so much.
How's your conference been?
It's been brilliant. I always come here and I get so inspired. And I always go back with something that I want to implement next Monday morning in one of my lessons.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Everything to do with inclusivity and teenagers. It's just been brilliant.
What more do you want? Edwina, you were one of our scholarship winners.
Yes, first time speaker.
So, okay, for anyone at home who's wondering, oh, how can I win that? Mm-hmm. What did you do? Where did you see it? How did you apply?
So it started last year at the conference when I spoke to the scholarship committee. They were doing a little meet and greet and they gave me an idea of what was available. I had the idea for a talk and I just didn't know where to begin. So they pointed me in the direction of what available scholarships there were. There's also a fantastic list online, which gives you an overview of everything. And then I came up with the idea for my talk and an abstract, which I then sent in for the Jill Sturtridge First Time Speaker Scholarship. And I also had to write an accompanying essay, I think around 300 words from recollection.
Okay.
The deadline was early summer, I think, from recollection as well.
Okay.
It was surprisingly straightforward. I think the hardest part is just having the courage to go for it. And then taking the time to go on the website and have a look at what's available there.
And once you'd applied, what then happened? You were notified that you'd won it, and that meant what?
Yes. So then I got an email saying that I had won. And then started, I think the best way to describe it is like the administrative process where you join a WhatsApp group with other winners, which has been a wonderful experience in itself. Actually, no one really talks about the amazing community of scholarship winners that exists. We've all been doing so many things together this week.
Oh, that's really nice.
And we've all been communicating for about a year in the WhatsApp group. So there's these administrative tasks. And then slowly you find out more and more about how things are going to go at the conference and where you have to be and the size of your room, etc., etc.
This is lovely. And winning the scholarship not only puts you in touch with other speakers, giving you like this ready-made community in a way, but it covers your expenses, or?
That's correct.
Yes.
So with the scholarship that I won, I had the entrance to the conference paid for, and I also had a pre-conference event paid for, which was a real treat, actually, because in previous years I just came for the conference itself. So you get to visit a pre-conference event, which feels a little bit more exclusive. There aren't that many people that come on the Monday. So that was really fun. And also, of course, depending on which scholarship, there's also prize money.
Wow. Okay. Tell us which pre-conference event did you choose?
So I went to the one that was a combination of different SIGs. It was the IPSEN SIG, I believe, along with global issues and the YLT. And it was talking about social justice and young learners.
Brilliant. So this was a whole day.
Yes, exactly.
Exclusively on that topic. Okay. And then on Tuesday, you had your talk.
Yes, it was my talk.
Okay. So for anyone who didn't manage to see your talk, can you tell us what it was about?
So my talk was called Simple Strategies to Support Young Learners with Their Mental Health, or to support learners with their mental health. And I talked for 25 minutes on both practical strategies that teachers can use in the classroom. Again, this idea of I wanted people to have something to take away that they can use in their classroom next Monday morning, also combined with some more abstract ideas about how we need to adapt as teachers ourselves, and become more empathetic, more understanding, kinder, and also approach students with a love and boundaries approach.
Okay, love and boundaries. Okay, tell me more about this.
So I talked in the second part of my talk about love and boundaries in the sense of love being empathy and kindness and understanding and vulnerability when you're with your students and modeling all those things. But at the same time, boundaries being that you don't just let students get away with anything, as it were. I work in a secondary school, and there are, of course, still rules that they need to follow. There's still a line in the sand. But it's the idea of thinking of your students, or thinking the idea that all feelings are valid, but not all behaviors are valid. And I found that's a very helpful way to approach, and a very empathetic way to approach teenagers who perhaps are having struggles.
And do you find that perhaps if they're misbehaving, if that's the right word, is this a cry for help? Is it that they want attention?
I believe so. So one of the quotes that I gave in my talk, it's not from a book, it's not from any kind of like literature, it's just from a primary school teacher. She once said to me that learners or children don't cause problems, they have problems. And I think often when you're having a behavioral issue in the classroom, as difficult as it is for us as teachers to accept that, it's an underlying issue. And that's what I mean about love and boundaries, that you need to approach that person with empathy and understanding, but at the same time, not accept behaviors that are not acceptable.
Yeah, no, 100%.
In the classroom.
But surely this also kind of spans across any age range, really, doesn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah,
it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, I think, because all of us, or many of us, grew up in a school system that encourages a harder approach to discipline, a bit more authoritarian, if I can sort of put it that way. And so it's just a different approach. And I think it genuinely benefits learners' mental health of whatever age they are, if they can see that their teacher is trying to be empathetic and kind, but also setting a boundary in the classroom. I think an example I had recently, which isn't one of the more extreme examples I've had, because I have had extreme ones with students swearing and being aggressive, all this sort of thing. But I had a case last year of a teenage girl who I was mentoring with her coursework. And the deadline came and she did not hand anything in. And with a little bit of digging and speaking to her class teacher, I found out that there had been a death in the family. And so without any kind of prompting, I emailed her and I emailed the mother and I gave them a 3-week extension, or gave her a 3-week extension for the coursework. I absolutely did not want anybody approaching me with this personal information. So I emailed her and said, I just want you to know that you have a 3-week extension for your coursework. And I felt that was the love part of the strategy, which is the kindness, the empathy, and not wanting people to feel anxious or stressed about the situation that's already very difficult for them. Now, if we fast forward 3 weeks, the deadline came and went, and the work was not handed in, and it was submitted 4 hours late using ChatGPT. And that's the boundary. That even though I, there was an approach of empathy and kindness, ultimately it still was handed in beyond the second deadline, and it wasn't her own work, and she still failed. But that I felt was a perfect example of love, but with a boundary.
I mean, it's a very good way of doing it, I think. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm processing that.
I know. But I mean, of course, there are, a few teachers have asked me about, for example, aggressive behavior in the classroom. And I've also had situations of students swearing at me or making seemingly threatening behavior. And I've had to ask them to leave the classroom. Normally I've asked a friend accompanies them. They go for a walk, they get a bit of fresh air, and then they come back and we talk alone. And that's often produced very positive results. When you take away an audience and you give them a chance to go outside, stretch their legs, breathe, take in some fresh air, and then you ask them for a solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's very important to have student-orientated solutions that they need to come up with a solution.
And in terms of mental health, are you finding that people are just more open about what's happening with them now?
Not with teenagers.
No?
No,
Okay.
Definitely not with teenagers. I think the reason I came to talk about this topic, or I was on this journey, is not because the teenagers were being more open about it. Not at all. It was just that it's noticeable. There's an increased anxiety in the classroom and restlessness, and they're even more unmotivated than you expect for the average teenager.
Yeah.
And there's just been a greater amount of absenteeism. This is very noticeable, that suddenly I'm finding students are not there for 4 weeks or longer. And so it's not because they've been more open, it's just because it's just noticeable.
And for anyone watching at home who's thinking, actually, this is my context, this is what's happening, do you have a useful strategy that you could perhaps pass on?
Just one?
No, you've probably got a million, but for the sake of...
I think if you are noticing that there are students who are having mental health struggles, and by that I don't mean, for example, severe depression or severe anxiety, because we are not counselors. I'm not a school counselor. I'm not a child psychiatrist. So I really approach this of what I can do in the classroom as a language teacher. But if you're noticing things like anxiety and restlessness and demotivation, and maybe increased aggression, first of all, you have to really start thinking about who you are as a teacher. That's really the first point I talked about, is really thinking about how can I approach these children with kindness and not discipline them out of it, I think would be the first thing. And then the kind of strategies that I suggested are movement. I really encourage teachers to do, if you have a restless, stressed class, do a 5-minute workout. You'll find something on YouTube, or get them outside, play a game outside, do a team game outside. Movement, fresh air is so good for endorphins and just mood boosting. And if you do a workout in the classroom, at the very least, they'll release some endorphins, but if not, they'll just laugh. They might laugh at you or with you, but laughter is mood boosting, so that's a win. I've also tried to take away a lot of the anxiety from my students in the classroom and not make them present in front of their peers anymore. I give them the option to present in front of their peers. That's helped a lot of girls. So I would say those are my 2 favorites.
Okay.
Out of everything I talked about for 25 minutes, that would be the 2 key takeaways, would be movement and finding ways to reduce anxiety in the classroom. Really think if it has to be in front of peers or not.
Okay. These are very useful tips. So perhaps if you're thinking, I'm not sure what to do with my learners, this could be something.
Or get in contact.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, get in contact with Edwina. How could they contact you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I was going to try and read my email address, but then I realized it's got like it's got a German school name in it, and that might be a little bit difficult, so I have to spell it out. But you can find me on LinkedIn. Please send me a message, and I'm happy to share my slides.
So this is Edwina Morehouse on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Edwina, well, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome. It's been great.
Best of luck with the rest of your teaching. Enjoy the rest of the conference and safe journey home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're live, and I'm back, here with Pablo.
Hello.
Pablo, for the people who don't know you, I can imagine there's not that many, but for the people who don't know you,
You'd be surprised.
Could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Anka. Thank you. So my name is Pablo Molina Baez. I come from southern Spain. I currently live in Granada. And shall I tell you more?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. What do you do? I mean,
What do I do? Well, now I've made a transition into a certified coach. And I use coaching as CPD for academic leaders and managers and teams of teachers. But my background comes from TEFL, so I'm really a TEFL baby. I was born to an English teacher who had an English school. And some of my first memories are me with my chin on the table and my mum teaching with the rods for the silent method. So after a standard TEFL career, TEFL degree, CELTA, Delta, DOS, director.
it's in your blood. You had to.
I kind of had to, yeah. And that's when I made the transition.
And then you went from TEFL baby to coach.
Yes.
And that was your
certified
talk about
coach.
as well.
Yes, absolutely. So the name of my talk was From Teacher Trainer to Teacher Coach. And what we looked at were 3 skills that certified coaches have to demonstrate when they train.
Yeah.
And 3 of those skills that any educator can implement in the classroom with their team, with their leaders, really in any interaction you can have.
Before we get into those 3, because I'm curious,
Yes.
stupid question. What's the difference between a teacher trainer and a teacher coach?
Very good question. Thank you, Anka. So I'd make a distinction between coaching and training as opposed to teacher coach or teacher trainer. And if you envision a line or a continuum or a spectrum, you'd have at one end a non-directive approach and at the other end a directive approach. So training often falls somewhere nearer the directive approach. So you'd have somebody,
do this, do that.
Yeah. Somewhere in the middle will be, you could try this. Have you tried doing that?
Yeah.
This often works. So it's suggestions. So that's directive. Somewhere in the middle, and then towards the other end where it's non-directive is where you would have coaching, which is asking questions so that the other person can find out what might best work for them. So it'd be a case of what's important about this situation for you? How do you feel about it? What have you tried? What has worked? What hasn't worked?
And then you hope that the answers lead them to the same outcome. But
yes, an outcome that would work for them. Because I think more often, or very often, as a trainer, you suggest, you give ideas, you recommend how to do things, or you straight out demonstrate and show how to do it.
But it's still my way. It's me telling my students, this is how you should do it,
Exactly.
and how you could do it, but still,
it's not yours. And you might take it up and you might try it, and it might work and it might not work. And a lot of the other times people don't even take that up because they might not think or feel that it would work for them.
True.
Because it's your way of doing things or the standard way of doing things.
Yeah. And you said you identified 3 aspects that any teacher can implement in their classrooms to go from trainer to coach.
Coach, absolutely. Or maybe if we're going to split hairs with this, perhaps instead of saying from trainer to coach, it might be having the tools to move within that range. To choose when you want to train and to choose when you want to coach.
I like that. Very, very coachy. You get to choose what you want to do.
Right.
This is how you recognize a true coach.
Okay,
so which 3 tools can we use so we can make our own choices?
So the 3 skills that I brought to the conference were the 3 that I think are the foundation stones or the cornerstones for building up the rest of the 8 set of skills that you have to demonstrate as a certified coach. And those 3 skills are presence, or being present, active listening, and then evoking awareness, which you do through asking questions and many other things. So,
okay, let's start with presence.
Yes.
I wake up, I go to work, I'm there.
Okay.
Some mornings, that's it. But what do you mean with presence? Because I think there's more to it than just showing up.
There might be. Do you remember how you got to work?
Depends on the morning.
Okay.
No, but of course, yeah, you know, you sit on the bus, you take a coffee, you like. Okay.
So I suppose it would be something, if we can relate it to that example, is how aware, how conscious are you of what it is that you're doing? Where is your attention? Where are you choosing to focus on? So in the session, we talked about when you're having an interaction with somebody, being present is focusing your attention for them, I like to call it, as opposed to on them.
That's an interesting question. I think in this day and age, it's getting harder and harder, because anyone watching from home, like, I bet you have a tab open, at least one more, because we all do. You have a phone next to you where I'm sure
You've had
there's
a message in these 5 or 10 minutes.
I hope so. Or maybe I hope not, because I think we're getting, and I do genuinely believe this, we're getting more and more impulses throughout the day. And it's really hard to just focus and say, hey, I'm here. I'm focusing on this. I'm listening to this.
That's it. That's it.
The second one was actually active listening.
Indeed, it really was. And they go hand in hand. I don't think there can be true active listening without being present, because actively listening is really about what the other person is saying, but also what they're not saying. And really, I love this. I saw this recently as well. I'd never come across it before. Listen, if you change the words, the letters around, spells out silent.
Oh,
there you go. That's a cool one.
That's a cool one.
So the word
they
tellers,
formed the conference. I actually have to think about this, but that's a cool one.
If I had a visual, I'd be able to show you. But I've got slides, which I'm happy to share, and one of the slides is that for the presentation. But so listen tells us how to do so, and it's by being silent. So part of the art of really actively listening is keeping that silence. I'd say holding that silence and creating that space for the other person to really have the time and space to go and explore and find out what their answer, what they think, how they feel about whatever it is that you're talking about.
I think it's very important. I think a lot of us are prone to sending, and we're not necessarily as attuned always to receiving and actually listening, not just receiving, but actually like being there, hearing, seeing the other person, knowing what they're feeling. And
absolutely. And I think if I can add, Anka, sorry I interrupted you there.
No.
A key feature for this that you really have to be aware about is that it's judgment free. You've got to do this completely judgment free, in the sense that as you're listening, you're not thinking about, or even if you think about it, you put it aside. What you think about what the other person is saying, whether that's right, whether that's wrong, whether that's good or whether that's bad, whether that's exaggerated or not exaggerated, all of that just goes aside. And that's when you're really creating that space where the other person can really flourish and really express themselves.
So really listen, no judgment, no facial expressions, rolling eyes, all those things we're prone to do in the classroom.
Indeed, indeed.
Really just letting the other person talk.
Absolutely. And in fact, if you want to take it to the standard where certified coaches have to get to, you could also say that in a conversation, if I were to be uttering these sort of noises or sounds, that would not be adequate either, because those are I'm making sounds that perhaps are validating, and if I'm validating, I'm emitting judgment. So
interesting.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
So, but we're talking really into depth here.
But I love detail and I love practicality, and I think people watching this also like want to know, what exactly can I do?
Okay.
And I've been told that listening signals is actually also a kind thing. You're talking, if I'm not giving you any response, like at some point you're going to wonder, who am I talking to?
Yeah. How do I know you're listening?
Exactly. And that the whole is also a way for me to say, okay, keep going. I'm listening. Right. How do I do that without
saying Well, I think you've got if you're just aware of whether that sound that you're emitting is a signal to say that I am listening, or whether you are emitting that sound because you agree with what the person is saying, I think that's a good start. And to know whether you are validating, whether you are accompanying someone. But you can do that differently as well with rapport. And remember, I said it's listening to what people are saying and not saying. So what are they not saying? So one tip that I like to put into practice is I like to sort of get into the same body as the other person. So not...
That sounds very science fiction.
That sounds very science fiction. It might do, yeah. Metaphorically speaking.
Okay.
So establish rapport, non-verbal rapport. So if the other person is talking and they're sort of leaning over and their shoulders are hunched and sort of as inconspicuously or as kindly as you can, don't just kind of like observe and copy and just copy every movement that they're doing, right? Because that's off-putting. But feel yourself in that same body, because that will help you empathize a lot better with them.
I like that, because obviously if you really start copying, you get into mime, and that's not what we want to do with our students.
That puts you off.
But
What's this
it
person
is
doing?
true that if my student is not feeling great in one morning and they're a bit hunched and they're making themselves small, and I make myself bigger, you get like a disbalance. So you're saying sort of match the energy.
Absolutely.
So they have space to be.
Yeah. And so that you're establishing that rapport, which is non-verbal, and that already builds a bridge for communication. Like you said, if we were to be having, this interview like this, it'd be a lot weirder. A lot, we've broken like something here, right?
Opposite, or you standing, me sitting, this balance is
right. So I think all of these things are things that teachers, if they're aware of their presence, like classroom presence, probably already do a lot of it. It's being conscious and aware of it and activating these things conscientiously to be able to build those bridges better.
You're saying most teachers already do this, but if you're aware of that you're doing it, you can use it more precisely when it's needed.
Absolutely. Teacher trainers with trainees as well, or even leaders, directors with their team. If a teacher's planning and the director or the DOS comes along and makes a petition of sorts, well then what sort of relationship is happening here? So it's just being aware of it every time you come across an interaction.
And awareness ties in with the third skill that you mentioned.
It really does. What great active listener. Thank you very much, Anka. Yes, so evoking awareness is where you open that space for learning to happen, to realize something that you didn't realize before, that you hadn't thought before, or that you hadn't considered before.
Yeah.
And that happens perhaps from observing things from different perspectives. And you do that through asking questions. Now, how you ask those questions is very, very important, because questions have to be open. So we start with a WH.
Not
word.
Did you do your homework?
Exactly.
Yes, no, most likely answer. Yes.
Or even at the beginning of the class, if you're trying to recap, who remembers what we did last lesson? No,
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a testing question, right? Who remembers? Who can tell me, the teacher, what we did last lesson? So I'm testing your memory there.
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, what did we do last class? And that's
what do you remember?
Everybody.
What was like the?
What do you remember? So there's little things like that. So open questions, which are not yes/no questions, and they've got to be simple, concise, more than simple. So not questions that when you start asking them, you forgot what the beginning of the question was, right?
Some of us teachers are prone to doing that. Yeah, good tip.
Yeah, I'll put my hand up for that. I do it. I do it also.
Me too. Yeah.
And another tip is to just go with a question that you've asked. So one question at a time. So ask a question, and if at the second you finish saying it, you think that it wasn't the right question, stick with it. Because if it wasn't the right question, the person you asked it to will tell you in one way or another.
Yeah, okay. So my student's doing a project. I ask, why did you choose this and this? I realize that's not really what I want to ask, and they're giving me the wrong answer, so to speak. I'll listen, respond to that, and then just try again by asking, why did you make this specific choice? Or how did you come to this conclusion?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Now, if we had a bit more time, I'd ask, what's the intention behind those questions for you? If you're acting as a teacher, you're trying to just find out of curiosity so that you can perhaps better provide, or are you trying to in some way assess what criteria they followed for that choice? So all of those things are going to influence how you ask the question and from where you're asking the question.
One question about this before we move on to the next interview. Time. Because I love this approach. I really do. But we're seeing budget cuts all over the world in terms of education.
Absolutely.
I have 45 minutes to an hour, 30 students. They're all working on a project. I kind of want to ask all of them good questions, listen, make it look like I'm like actively listening and I'm not worried about time and grading and all the other stress that we have as teachers. How do I do this?
Excellent question. Thank you, Anka. And I think here we have to make a distinction between coaching techniques as a methodology or as an approach in the classroom, or coaching as a CPD tool for professional development or continuous professional development. So for the question that you asked me, which is in the classroom, I'd go back to that spectrum and say, choose your moments and
more trainer.
You know, be aware of what are you being. Are you training? Are you mentoring? Are you guiding? Are you coaching? Who needs what? And pick your moments. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you cannot, or I'd switch this around. What you can do is instill that sort of philosophy into your classroom. So your learners can sort of help each other in that way as well. So if you can teach, demonstrate how to listen, how to be present, how not to just say, oh, just copy my answers, but ask questions like, well, what are you finding difficult? What is it exactly that you don't understand? You know, how often have we been in a class where they said, teacher, I don't understand, and then you just repeat what you just said, or you just explain the grammar point again.
Or a student does.
Right?
Like someone else just say, yeah, but she said this and this. Like, okay.
So that might be, what is it exactly that you don't understand? And what help exactly are you asking of me? What do you need this particular information for? Because all of those things are going to provide us more information to be able to help in the best way possible.
I love that.
Say choose when and where and what.
Love that. So as a tip, basically be present, ask good questions, and through those questions make our students aware of how they're working and what they're doing. Any last tips?
Wow, many, but
the best one, the best one
tip,
you've got.
The best tip. I'd say be brave and experiment.
Oh, I like that. Be brave and experiment.
And go with it, because whatever little conscious effort you're making is going to be helpful, even if you botch it. Even if you don't get it right at the first time, it will be a valuable experience for yourself, and it will give you more opportunities, more chances to keep honing those skills. And practice makes perfect at the end of the day.
Brilliant. But then you're not botching it. Let me sort of correct that bit. Then you're not botching it. You're learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So be brave, experiment, learn, and have the patience with us, ourselves.
Indeed.
As we would with our students.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love it. Thank you
very
so much.
Anka. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
My name is Ijoma Ire. I flew in from Nigeria to attend this IATEFL Conference. And since yesterday, it's been so exciting. It's been fun. We've been listening to so many people presentations, topics we could relate to, and we learned a lot. Our eyes were opened to know so many methodologies, skills, and how you can handle them. They are really so exciting. These are things we meet in the classrooms, yet we do not know how to handle them. So we got them yesterday, and I want to believe that today, I've run in today again because I really want to learn a lot of new things. So it's been exciting. The exhibition stand, quite exciting. They're friendly. They give out a lot. The coffee is just, you keep taking and taking and taking. IATEFL has a lot to offer us. And we are grateful. We are good. We like it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm now joined in the studio by Dahlia. Hello, Dahlia.
Hello, Nikki.
How are you?
I'm good.
How's your conference been so far?
Amazing. Full of vibes, full of learning. And I think we have a lot of homework to do when we go home.
There's always a lot to take in and then to process and then to utilize somehow. Dalia, tell us, for anyone at home watching, where have you come from? What's your context? What do you do?
Okay, so I come from Egypt. I'm a teacher educator, and a researcher. And I've been working with teachers for over 25 years now. I've been lucky. So my research interest over the last 10 years has been to focus on children's voice. And learning about their experiences about learning English in the classroom, particularly underprivileged classes where the very limited resources, teachers don't get enough professional development opportunities. So I'm very interested in learning how these children experience learning English and what are their suggestions for improving learning and teaching in these classes.
And where did this come from? What piqued your interest and made you think this is what I would like to look into?
I think when I started doing research in schools, in Egypt, unfortunately, the area of learner's voice is very much under-researched. So I was amazed by the children, the very young children's capacity for reflection. I was amazed for when I listened them talk about the learning, what they wish the teachers could do differently. And then I started looking at the literature on children's voice, and I found that the literature is confirming that there's a lot we can learn from children. So I got very interested, and actually this is, I'm today here to report on a research project. This is my fourth research project focusing on children's voice. And I have learned a lot. I have to thank all the children I worked with. They have taught me a lot.
So this today at 1:15?
1:50, yes.
You're giving your talk and you're going to tell us about the research that you've been doing. So for those at home who are not going to be able to make it, could you give us a taster of what you're going to talk about?
Sure. So I'm here to talk about some early findings and insights from a large scale research project that I'm doing with colleagues from University College London and the Centre for Climate Change and Sustainability Education there. We are looking, we're trying to understand more how, again, young children in underprivileged classes experience climate change education, how they find the textbooks, how they find teaching it. This helping them really feel prepared for climate actions or not, and what are the suggestions for improving these.
And how have you done it? What's been your methodology to find out to get your data?
Thank you for the question, because actually the methodology was part of the fun. So we used different data collection tools, but I will tell you about two of these that were really very interesting. Because we're working with children, you cannot just go and ask them, what do you think? Tell me. So we used artwork, where we ask children to draw and color pictures that reflect how they felt about climate change, their feelings and thoughts. We also used prompts, what we call sentence starters, something like, I wish my English textbook ... So you see, very open to encourage creativity, not to discourage children or to make them feel like is it a test, is it assessments, particularly in contexts like in Egypt, where it's very assessment driven. So we wanted to make sure that children enjoyed themselves, felt free to express their opinions. And we used other tools like interviews and surveys, but these were the highlights of data collections, the sentence starters and the drawings. And today, if anyone is here, I'm going to show a lot of the artwork that was produced by the children's. Very colorful, very creative, and really, really beautiful.
And how old were the children that you've been working with?
10 to 12 years old.
Okay. And have the people at UCL also been working with younger learners? And is it a combination of British and Egyptian young learners?
It's only Egyptian for this project. It's only Egyptian young learners. Yes, and we've been working together.
Okay. And can you tell us some of your findings? What have the young learners said?
Okay. just one thing, part of the context, part of this research is also about asking teachers about their perceptions and what they think their children think about teaching and learning about climate change. So as for the children, we were struck by the intense and mixed feelings they have about climate change. So children have very strong feelings, unfortunately, overwhelmingly fear, despair, anger about climate change and the uncertainty of the future. However, which is very interesting, they also feel very empowered.
Mm-hmm.
They strongly believe that they can take action and they can have impact. So they told us things like, I can protect the environment by doing things like recycling, keeping the environment clean. But surprisingly, they also told us that I can teach and advise the people around me. And this included not only friends, but also family. And some of the children also talked about communicating and connecting with the world, not only
Wow.
people in their community, but they were talking about this is global. I need to go global, and I can talk and have impact not only in Egypt but outside Egypt. And this is very important, given the fact that we are English language teachers, because children talked about learning English, and they felt that it would be very useful if they could tell their story about climate change and what they can do and the world they dream of. They can do this in English, not only in their mother tongue.
Well, this is beautiful, and this is obviously with social media, as we were talking about earlier, just how amazing it is that we have got this reach to people that we would normally not be able to communicate with. And so the children that you've been working with, they feel knowledgeable in the area, knowledgeable enough to be able to advise or
that's a good question.
Know what to do.
Back in 2018, Egypt embarked on a nationwide curricular reform movement, and Education 2.0 was introduced, and it had a clear focus on sustainability. And this focus ran cross-curricular. So students now are learning about climate change and sustainability across the curriculum. And we found that students were aware of main issues of climate change and were aware of actions that could mitigate the impact of climate change. However, they are ambitious. They want to learn more. What and how they want to learn is a little bit different from what the teachers think. So,
okay.
And this is interesting because, as I told you, we were looking at teachers and learners. So for learners, they want to learn more about how to act.
Yeah.
And how to act in collaboration with others. They're very much focused on this collective, doing things collectively rather than individually. So they wanted, even in the English classroom, they want to learn in collaboration with others. They want to learn how to communicate with others. It's this obsession with, we want to do things together in the classroom so that, yes, when we go to the real world, we can take this with us. When we looked at teachers, this is interesting. We found that teachers thought that they were more concerned about climate change than the learners. They did not really think that the young learners were that concerned about climate change. And when we asked teachers about what they thought was the most important thing that they could do to help their children learn about climate change and prepare them for climate action, teachers actually capitalized on knowledge. They thought that if they could teach them more about what climate change is, what are the solutions, so factual information for teachers were the most important, rather than actually doing projects, engaging with the community around them. So we find that there was a disparity between teachers' ideas and perceptions and learners' needs, which is very interesting, and which reminds us again and again and again of why we need to incorporate learners' voice in whatever we're doing.
And so what impact are the results of your findings potentially going to have? What are the next steps?
Okay. immediate steps, and this is very interesting, and thank you for asking me about this. I'm very happy that in yesterday's plenary, there was a talk about classroom research and bridging the gap between theory and practice, yes. So, because we went to schools and spent time with children and teachers there, we were contacted by the school administration and asked to help them set up activities, extracurricular activities to promote climate change education. And because we found that children enjoyed the artwork activities that we use as part of data collection, the schools we worked with now have set artwork extracurricular activities all around issues of climate change, and they're planning for children to showcase their work and talk about this.
Oh wow, okay, so this is actually in implementation at the moment.
Exactly.
Okay,
so we're very happy to see this. So this is like immediate impact, something you can see. We're also planning to produce reports about research findings both in English and in Arabic. And we're going back to schools to give them these reports. And we've been asked to organize a workshop where we meet up with teachers, talk about the research findings, and do like an orientation or awareness about the findings and about climate change education. And as for the futures, the schools also, we're talking with the schools now to see if we can do something online that's more sustainable.
Okay.
It's not just one-shot CBD event, but if we could continue talking with the teachers about climate change education, using the insights we gain from research in advising and working with the teachers so that we can improve what we're doing at schools at the moment.
But this is amazing that you've had an immediate impact and that there are things in the pipeline to make this sustainable and to cascade the information down. If there's anyone watching at home thinking, I'm interested in doing something similar, do you have any advice that you could give? How could they start? What could they do?
I think they need, the first step would be to talk with the people you're working with. So if you're working with learners, go and talk with your learners, ask them, how are we doing right now? How do you feel about this? Is there anything we're not doing you think would be useful? If you're working with your teachers, go and ask them. And if people involved in material writing or policymakers, I think similar steps will be very useful. It might seem like a very simple thing, but the amount of learning you can get out of such a simple act like this, I mean, you won't imagine. And we need not to underestimate how learners feel anxious and concerned, and how this might really impact on their well-being. This is really an issue that we need to address today, not tomorrow.
Okay. Well, Dalia, thank you so much for talking to us today. Thank you for the research and sharing what you're learning and finding out. And best of luck with implementing it. And hopefully we'll see you at the conference next year.
Oh, thank you so much, Nikki, for inviting me and giving me this amazing opportunity for share my research with wider audience.
It's a pleasure. We're really lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. Welcome to the exhibition centre. So this is our home for the week, and as you can see, we have the couch. This is where the magic happens, and this is where we actually want anyone who's here and that would like to have a chat with us, please come down. This is where we're going to be. So this is our home, and if we go around, as you can see, there are lots and lots of different stands with all of the different publishers and universities and organisations that are working with us to make the world a better place. We're next door to the independent author stand, so if you watched IATEFL Live yesterday, you will have seen Rob chatting to us from there. And moving around, we've got Cambridge and their collaboration space. Where are you going? Trinity are there as well. Just all the publishers.
No, the tribunal takes years to summon a trustee.
And there you have it. There's the exhibition centre. Everyone in one place. Fantastic space that everyone can network, meet and share. Come and see us if you get the chance.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm here with a very, very special person, Jean. Jean, for the people who don't know you, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jean Toma, and I am one of the trustees of IATEFL.
Wow, we have one of our trustees. Well, we always have Georgia, but that doesn't count anymore. So we have a trustee in the studio. When you're not a trustee, because we already talked about this the last couple of days, everything here, with the exception of the people actually sort of working in the office, is unpaid. This is a voluntary job.
That's right.
They don't tend to pay the bills. So what do you do other than being a trustee?
So apart from that, I live and work in Malta, and I am a university lecturer there. And I lecture, excuse me, in EAP, ESP. So yeah, academic English and specific purposes. So, and apart from being a trustee at IATEFL, then I'm also the associate rep. So I've got lots of hats that I put on.
It's always good to have multiple hats. I love hats. You can't have too many. Okay, so trustee, I think we all sort of know what that entails.
Yeah.
But we've also learned yesterday that every trustee has like an angle.
That's
and
right.
they have something. Money, Georgia's good with computers. That's really like dumbing it down now. What do you do as an associate, like trustee?
So IATEFL, as a large international organization, also has affiliations with other local teaching associations in various countries across the world.
Yeah.
And those are called our associates. So we have at the moment around just over 100 associates.
Mm-hmm.
So that is from, far-flung places, from Nigeria right up to Finland. So we've got from South America right across to Kazakhstan. So we've got so many different associations who are affiliated to us and partner with us and cooperate with us. So my job is to kind of represent them on the board of trustees. So when I say I am the associate rep of course stands for representative. So it's my job to kind of make sure that their voices are heard and that we are steering IATEFL to make sure that we are caring for, looking out for, and including other teaching associations around the world.
Wow. So like we've had trustees on the studio before. I'm sorry to say you're not the first. But with trustees, we trust them with something. We trust Georgia with computers. We trust someone with money.
Yeah.
We trust you with a lot of people. Because we've had people from associates on, and there's quite a lot of associates. And I can imagine they all have different interests. They all have different questions. They all have different things they want from you.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Obviously there's the IATEFL has a mechanism for this, right? So mailing lists and things like that. But we also run things like online meetups for associates, and we run Associates Day and the Associates Online Conference. So if I break that down, Associates Day is the day before the conference. It's run on the same day as the PCEs.
Mm-hmm.
And associates are invited to send along one representative. We all meet in a giant room. and we just talk about all things to do with the running, the management, the administration of teaching associations. So this year, for example, we had over 60 participants. That means 60 different teaching associations, and we all came together, and it was such a joyous and wonderful event, because we notice very, very frequently that no matter which part of the globe we're from, our experiences are really similar. Our challenges are really similar. So by sharing our expertise and our knowledge, we can really help each other. So no matter what size of teaching association, again, we have from the really, really large to the very, very tiny and small, but we're all in this together, helping each other. And that's a really nice thing.
I can imagine that's a really nice feeling, because like you said, in a lot of cases, one of the things we all say we love about IATEFL is you meet people from different contexts, and yet we all find that there's a lot of similarities in how we teach, the goals of our teaching. And I imagine the same for associates, like you run into the same problems.
Absolutely.
One of those problems we discussed in the studio with one of our guests is that associates are struggling with members.
Yep.
Are there other things that our associates...
The big one, funding. So yeah, getting funding, gaining funding for teaching associates. Just like IATEFL, at the very beginning, you kindly mentioned the fact that the Board of Trustees, we are all volunteers. We do this in our spare time, huge inverted commas there. And as do most executive committees of local teaching associations.
Yeah.
So in addition to the fact that they have other jobs to contend with, not enough training in the management and organization of a teaching association, then on top of that, they have to then try and find funding in order to do things like publications, event, etc. Things that they have not really had training to do, because most of them are teachers at heart. So that, I think, is one of the largest challenges, and that's something that IATEFL are trying to help with. So we have lots of things like on our website, we have lots of handbooks. When we do get together, it's a thing that we try and talk about, and we try and give training, CPD rather than training. Let me call it that, so that we can support people in this, because that's the major challenge.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Like, you're a teacher, you want to volunteer, you want to become a part of, let's say, IATEFL Hungary, Poland. We've had some associates here. You don't have the background to be treasurer. You don't have the background to become president. So basically, you offer help to any associates who.
We do our best. We're not experts. We have our own challenges as IATEFL and as individuals. Again, most of us are from teaching backgrounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think working together, and again, this idea of collaborating. So we've got teaching associates who have been associations in their country for years and years and years. And we have brand new ones that have just started up this year or last year. And again, the idea that they can mentor each other and talk to each other about these things, we find that is what IATEFL can really add to their experience when they come to the conference and when they join IATEFL as associates.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that Monday was like priceless to a lot of those associations, because you want to hear about how our newer associations doing this, starting up in difficult times. And as a newer association, you're going to love hear from people who've already done all those things, faced all those problems, how you could.
Absolutely. We got really good feedback. As we always do for Associates Day, I think it's something that's lacking. And because it's lacking, that's why we then started the Associates Online Conference, which we hold usually November, October-ish. The date hasn't come out yet for this year's one, but we intend to start working on it very, very soon. And again, the things which are specifically designed for managers and leaders of associations is fairly lacking. It is an area of training that you don't find very much. So we're hoping that through events like this, we can do what we can to help.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine it does, especially if you have one mid-year also to catch up online and share pressing issues.
Yeah.
Love that.
We're doing our best.
You're doing your best. Well, thank you so much for giving us a bit of a peek behind the scenes of IATEFL. And again, enforcing that belief that associations really matter. We need to collaborate. We need to collaborate on a teacher level. I think every teacher always needs another teacher to talk to and to exchange ideas with. On a broader level, we need that in associates.
Absolutely. And I would make a strong appeal that if there is anybody listening at the moment who is part of an executive committee of a teaching association in their location who hasn't become an associate yet, I'd just like to say it is free for an association to join us. So I really, really encourage them to do it. There's a part of the web page, part of our website is devoted to that. And there are many benefits that they can gain through IATEFL membership themselves, and they can pass those benefits on to their members. So I think there's no reason why they shouldn't join us.
Love that. So if you're already part of a association, but you're not an official association tied to IATEFL, do it for free, working together, get the help, get the benefit of working together globally. And if you are in a country or region that doesn't have an association, look into starting one. And
Absolutely.
most people, I think, will be in a region where there is one, in which case become a member.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tucking the tummy from standing.
That has flown by. I can't believe it, actually. Yeah, it's just gone the whole week. I mean, I'm still trying to get my head around it. I know. So how are you doing? What the light goes in there? Yeah.
I have to say goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We actually haven't finished. Okay, there you go. Have a microphone, Georgia. Go on then.
Yes. So, as you can understand, everybody, we are ready to just pack up and go, really.
It's that time again.
So, girls, if you can give one word to this year's conference, what would that be?
Vibrant.
Oh.
I really felt this is one of those years where everybody was colorful, happy, and I don't want to say all over the place. That sounds a bit negative, but it's like it's been such a good one. I think everything felt heightened. Better weather.
Yeah, I think
Edinburgh,
exactly.
Everything was just more colorful and vibrant and lively than I remember from previous years.
I think that's it. Like someone yesterday, I think, said that IATEFL was like spring, and I completely agree with them that it was where everything blossoms, and it's kind of like we've been not on our own for the last year, but we haven't been together, and we've come together, and things are blossoming, and it's just been a great week. It really has. What about for you?
My one word would be hugs. Because hugs, like everybody has been hugging each other. It was a fantastic reunion. And not only here physically in Edinburgh, but also in the digital world. Can I just say, the community we have, the audience we have is absolutely amazing. The comments that people left is unreal because you've been helping each other, you've been inspiring each other. So thank you very much for joining us from home. Now, don't forget, girls, I can give you a week or two to relax, but then we're back in action. So you're probably thinking, when are we coming back?
Yeah, when are we back?
Fine. So you can sleep for a couple of weeks, and then we are back on the 22nd of April when we will be celebrating Planet Earth because it is Earth Day. And we will be talking about sustainability. So from all of us here in Cambridge, thank you very much for joining us.
Edinburgh,
yes. Did I say Cambridge?
She's back in home mode.
Exactly. I'm packing for home.
It's been a long week.
So thank you very much for joining us here in
Edinburgh.
And we will see you again online. Thank you very much, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.